slowly you fade, slowly you fade. Emmanuel, yo, yo, yo. 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 Spirit bird, she creaks and groans, she knows she has seen this all before, she has seen this all before, she has. Spirit bird, she creaks and groans, she knows she has seen this all before, she has seen this all before, she has. Slowly you fade, slowly you fade.
Please be seated. We grieve today with thoughts of Glen foremost in our minds. His loss has brought sorrow to you all. Your grief and sorrow is all the more painful by the tragic and sudden death of such a wonderful man with such a promising future. When elderly relatives die, we recognise a natural or normal change, the end of a lifetime and a lifespan encompassing all that was to be given and achieved. The death of one so relatively young shocks us and rocks our world. Our being here together is a support and comfort for us all, whether members of the family or close friends. Our collective sorrow and grief helps us to seek closure and move on without the physical presence of Glen. The pain that you feel is merely a reflection of the depth of your love for the one that you mourn. But today, let us celebrate Glen's life with love, with wonder, and with admiration. Nothing can detract from the times of happiness and closeness you all shared with Glen. Nothing can affect the times of happiness and the successes of life that Glen knew. Nothing can change your love for him and his love for you. It cannot be altered by time, by circumstances, or even by death. What has been, the past with all its meaning, is safe in your memories. My name is Erica Harley, and I'm a funeral celebrant and a family friend. And it is my privilege and honour to be conducting this ceremony for Emily, Jacob and River, Delwyn, his mum, sisters and brother AJ, Stephanie and Paul, Auntie Sue and Uncle Rod. And I would like to welcome other relatives and colleagues and close friends that have gathered here to be with his family. And I also welcome all those relatives and friends that will be watching the broadcast in New Zealand. You may not be mentioned by name, but I know that your presence here is a great comfort. You all played your part in Glen's life, just as he played a part in yours, and you will never forget him. Emily has described Glen as a warrior, fighting his demons, And these quotations that Emily found describe Glen and his personal battle. Great warriors, like great earthquakes, are principally remembered for their mischief they have done. Courage, above all things, is the first quality of a warrior. So let's go back to the beginning. Glen was born on the 23rd of February in 1978 in Auckland, New Zealand, the eldest of 4 siblings. He was a beautiful child, even becoming a child fashion model. He was so photogenic. Glen attended the local primary school until age 7, when the family moved to Victoria, Australia, and then in 1988 to Western Australia, where Glen attended Woolloomooloo Primary School. I had to practice that. Thank you. A typical Australian country school in the middle of nowhere, and I've looked it up on the map, and it really is. Glen was a child who loved being outdoors, taking part in lots of sports, surfing, horse riding, or BMX riding, at which he won many awards and was the state champion in 1989. In 1990, the family moved back to New Zealand, and Glen attended Murray's Bay Intermediate School, and then Orewa College, good, with varying levels of success. Formal education was not his thing at that age. He found it hard to conform, and although liked by his teachers, not your ideal student. And I'm now going to read out the memories that Glen's cousin and some friends have sent us from New Zealand. So I apologise to them for the very English accent. Firstly, Tony, his cousin, would like to say this. Growing up, you were my other little brother. And I have to say that when you and Carl were together, mischief wasn't far behind. The many, many adventures we went on in New Zealand from the time we could all drive wouldn't have been half as eventful if it wasn't for you, Glen. Always up for a challenge, or always finding them for us to overcome. And overcome we did. There hasn't been time in my life when you weren't a part of it. Sometimes big and sometimes from afar, but nevertheless, always there. I will miss you, cuz, more than you will ever know. And Mackay and Stella will miss out on an amazing, kind, cheeky, lovable member of our family. All our love, cuz. All our love, Em, Jacob and River. And now Glen's friend Blair. The good times with Glen were really good. Always the first to start the fun and games, start a game of hacky sack, cricket, or kick the ball around, or maybe drinking games. And it's got down here, ha ha, so I'm not quite sure what that means. Always the first to want to have a go on anything, whether it was motorbikes or a skateboard or some other crazy action truck. He was gung-ho. For a little fella, he had some big balls. And he made everyone feel included and did put others first. Yeah, sure, he fucked up at times, but if ever anyone was pissed off at him, it wouldn't be for long. He would soon have everyone laughing again, and all was forgiven. That dude had a heart of gold. I don't think I've ever said those words in a funeral before. And his cousins, Carl and Heidi. I had a ball with Glen growing up. We had many sticky situations together, and we had each other's backs every time. For the pain he was in, he smiled more than most, and was always cheeky as hell. I would share some of the memories, but I feel there may be young ears listening, so I'll keep quiet. He loved Em and his family more than anything in the world, and he would have done anything for them, or anyone else for that matter. I will miss him so much, and I hope that the cousins can grow up as close as he and I were, because that is a friendship I think everyone should experience. Sending our love to you, Em, and the boys, also Delwyn, Steph, AJ and Paul, and hope to be in touch once all has settled, so we can have a good catch-up and reminisce all those wonderful memories. And finally, from Wayne, his school friend. Words can't really describe how sorry I am for your loss. Glen was such an amazing person and had a huge heart. I was lucky enough to meet Glen in my first year at Ariwa College, and he quickly became my best friend. We had a lot of fun times over many years, and brackets got into a lot of trouble, close brackets. As with any long friendship, we had many disagreements along the way, but one thing I can say is Glen had my back no matter what, and I'd say anyone who was a mate of Glen's would say the same. He absolutely loved you, Em, and the boys. And I remember when he came back to New Zealand, you were all he could talk about. And when you were making your way over here, he was so happy and excited. I'm glad he had your love and support all these years. I feel very privileged to have known him, and he will always remember one of my best friends. In 1994, everything changed for the family as Glen's dad died. And Glen decided to leave school and get a job. And he learned his trade as a carpet and wooden flooring layer, working in the family business. There was also a period of working with racing horses, and Glen loved this work as he had a natural affinity with animals. In 2002, Glen decided to spread his wings and went to work in the Whitsunday Islands in Australia, crewing as a deckhand, although he had to turn his hand to more than just decking. This work played into his other passion, the sea. His next move in 2004 was to Bondi in New South Wales, where he was working redecorating the Vaucluse Bowling Club and turning it into a restaurant. And it was during this period when he met Emily Capel-Davies. Now, Emily and her mate Joe were drinking in the BB's Club in Bondi, and Emily noticed these two blokes sitting at the bar and suggested that she go and chat them up for her friend. Well, after the very well-used and rather popular phrase, "Hi, my friend fancies you," Emily and Glen became inseparable. They moved in together, and then in July 2005, due to Glen's long-held love of history, they decided to move to the UK, to a flat in London, sharing with Emily's friend Lauren. But life was to take an unexpected turn. Emily discovered she was pregnant. So, a move back to Wallingford seemed the best option. Glen was still working in flooring, and in 2007, they started their own flooring business called Floor Restore. Sadly, Glen became quite ill from 2008, having long periods of illness interspersed with work and family life. But it was decided that in late 2008, he would move back to New Zealand to see if that would help him. It was in late 2010 that Emily and Jacob moved out to New Zealand to be with him, living with Sue and Simon in Auckland. Glen was still flooring, and Emily had a job with a recruitment consultancy. However, in 2011, they decided to have another try at living in the UK. These times were hard. Glen wasn't well, Emily was commuting to London to work, and Glen had a number of spells at the Warnford Hospital in Oxford. Again, in 2013, Glen returned to New Zealand on his own and got a house in Cockle Bay, a beautiful place to live. And again, Emily and Jacob went out to join him. But eventually the demons got the better of Glen, and life spiralled out of control again. There were long periods of being in hospital whilst Emily worked and Jacob attended Cockle Bay School. But in 2014, Glen finally got the right diagnosis for his mental health struggles. Glen's life started to make a change for the better after engaging in peer-led services, having the appropriate therapy and guidance for his diagnosis. Glen finally found recovery after many years of struggling in late 2014. Emily would like to thank the South Auckland mental health teams for their support and in enabling Glen to find recovery, with a particular thanks to Sunil, Glen's psychiatrist at the time. And I'm going to ask Stephanie to come and read Delwyn's memories. Delwyn, Glen's mum.
Kia ora, haere mai, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Welcome and thank you all for coming.
Where do you want me to go from?
Right here.
We lived in Geelong and we used to have a rug market. Glen would work behind the stall and be certain to make the first sale, for he knew he was going to barter us out of the money of that first sale. He knew all along he would get the money to go and buy toys for him and his siblings. In good fashion, of course, Glen had already scoped the market, pre-planned the purchase, and knew exactly what he wanted to buy. The first thing he bought was this wrestling set.
Can I just butt in? It was the most amazing wrestling set. I remember it. It was awesome. It was so much fun.
Which endured down the line of siblings to those indestructible men of rubber who were used as target practice and taught his younger brothers and sisters road safety. You want to tell them about that?
Oh, look what happens if a rubber man gets run over by a car tyre. Don't just look twice before you step out on the road. Here we go. Okay.
He used to love the hay shed on the farm we lived on in Perth, Warraloo, sorting through the hay and holding back the dog and cat to make sure the rats and mice made a good escape. He loved the farm the most, loved the locust plague. He loved teaching AJ, Steph and Paul how to pull off their heads. That's the heads of the locusts. I remember the news crew flew over the farm to film the plague. Glen knew what would happen if they got too close and was standing there with his arms in the air saying, "Come on, get closer." Of course, the thousands of locusts did get spooked and flew up in the air. It was like a sea of fully consuming the helicopter.
During Glen and Emily's honeymoon, which Mum was lucky to attend to, we took a cable car up to the top of Benives, as far as you can go. We all saw this guy riding on this BMX and Glen knew he was going to crash. Glen shouted down out through the roof of the cable car, the usual comical comments at the expense of the poor man who fell off his bike and lay in embarrassment on the floor. It was hilarious. On the way back down, he saw a BMX crash and was egging the guy to get up. He always laughed at idiots' behaviour. Don't we all? One time we had a photo shoot coming up for the kids modelling that was going to be on the news. It's pretty exciting, Mum. You must have been very proud. I had to get them to practice in the lounge, which had its moments. Glen, in particular, was getting so sick and tired of me directing and bossing him around that I told him in my mum's voice, "Go over there and sit in that seat now." Is that good?
Yeah.
Unfortunately for Glen, it was one of those folding chairs, and his huffing and puffing and arms folded. When he did sit down, the whole chair folded closed and he was stuck. I will never forget his laughter, all of ours in that moment.
Another time in Warraloo, Glen kept telling me there was a scorpion in the house and that it kept running along the wall back and forth. I kept telling him it was just a mouse. which is what I thought it was until I did see it for myself. It was very much I told you so situation, and Glen basked in his pride.
It was a scorpion.
It was a scorpion. He used to read bedtime stories to Paul every night. Jacob is strong and has the same strength of support within him. It makes me extremely proud of my beautiful boy.
I love you, my beautiful son. Your strength, compassion for others, kindness and courage will shine like a diamond within my heart for the rest of my days. It's good. Well, what was that other thing that she asked about Oscar, the cat?
Oh, yeah, the swinging, the thingy. Yeah, you go. You don't get the story, get it right.
Just after my father passed away, Mum got us a kitten, Oscar de la Renta, favourite perfume. And this poor cat, honestly, I didn't even remember this until we just spoke about it, but Glen used to put Oscar in the peg basket on the clothesline and throw him down the back and forth down the clothesline.
It wasn't just Glen, it was all the kids.
Oh, it wasn't me. Anyway,
Okay.
That's from Mum, and this is where that's not us. From Rick.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Rick.
Yeah.
Oh, you're just there.
Oh, that's all
I was
right.
looking around for you.
You're,
Yeah.
you're okay to carry on reading it? Yeah, so you just read that bit.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Just read this bit.
I'm going to read a poem. It's my mother, Darwin Fielder's favourite poem. She's always recited it to us as kids, and I've learnt to love it growing up. I know what it means, having children of my own. It's by Wordsworth, and it's called Dancing with the Daffodils, and she's always said that we are her daffodils. And I now say that to my own daughters. Yeah, so it's a song about memories and looking back and remembering a time, and your heart just dances with glee, remembering that moment. All right. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high over vale and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils. Beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze. Continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way, they stretch in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 I saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. For oft, when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon that inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills and dances with the daffodils.
In 2015, the family returned again to the UK, and also the time that Emily realised she was pregnant again, and River was born later that year. With his lived experience in mental health distress, Glen was able to work in the mental health services in Oxford from 2015 onwards, following on from his work in New Zealand for the WRAP courses, and that stands for Wellness and Recovery Action Planning, where he had trained as a mental health peer support specialist. In Oxford, he was the lead tutor for the Recovery College, responsible for developing and delivering a number of recovery-based workshops. He managed a number of tutors and trained them to become peer support workers. Glen was on the steering board for the NHS Mental Health Peer Support Project, implementing peer-led services into the Oxford hospitals and the community teams. He was also a guest speaker for Suicide Awareness Conference earlier this year. And I'm going to read out a statement from Glen's CV, which Emily sent me. And it demonstrates where he was progressing in his career in 2016. Seeking to advance within my current role of peer tutor, where I can continue to utilise my lived experience in mental health, hope, and recovery, to continue to be a positive role model and support others on their journey within the Recovery College. I am extremely passionate to help others to find and maintain recovery. I would bring to this role a commitment to focus on people's strengths, not what's wrong, but what's strong. A people person, I quickly build trusting and mutual relationships. As an ambitious individual, I wish to become a full-time member of the growing and developing Oxfordshire Recovery College. Not bad, really, is it? It was December 2017 that Glen had the opportunity to work for Aspire Oxford, an employment charity that supports individuals from various disadvantaged circumstances to find recovery and ultimately secure paid employment. Glen worked as the peer mentor development lead, implementing mindfulness into Aspire Oxford and other workshops, such as Potential for Change course and Buddy in the Workplace. Emily and Glen had the chance to work together and co-develop some of this work. They delivered a Pilot's Day workshop, which is a memory Emily is so grateful to have, as she saw firsthand the extraordinary work that Glen produced. They were a formidable team and didn't admit to the people on the course that they were actually husband and wife. And we are sure that many people will benefit from the work that Glen, supported by Emily, has prepared. Sadly, Glen became very unwell again in mid-2018 of this year and was hospitalised in Littlemore Hospital, Oxford, for a short spell. Glen said that even when he was in the hospital, people recognised him and reached out for his support. So his work continued even when he was at his darkest point of his personal battles. This shows just how extremely remarkable and inspiring Glen truly was as an individual. And now we're going to listen to our second piece of music. And in fact, we've got two pieces of music. And while you do, I hope you'll look at the photographs that you're going to be shown and take the time to recollect your personal memories of Glen. Perhaps, if you wish, say your own prayers. The track is called Soaring with the Angels by Laura Sullivan. And then the second track is A Heart Chakra, which Emily and Glen used to listen to as part of their meditation practice. Thank you. I'd like to invite Sue, Glen's auntie, to come and speak. Okay, it's there for you.
Darling Glen, you brought sunshine into our lives, and we want you to know that our hearts warm when we think about you, and always has from the day you were born. Our love for you will always be strong in our heart of hearts. We know you knew how much we love you. Uncle Simon, James, Rochelle, Bean, Tanya, to name but a few. The love is immense. Your smile, your mischief, your hugs, just simply the best. For me, your auntie, and Uncle Si, your uncle, you're our other son. For James and Rochelle, a brother. And for Ben and Tanya, a friend with a heart of gold. Glen, the void you leave can never be filled. Our world, the sun, the universe, shines a little less brightly until we look up into the sky and there you are, a shining star forever in our hearts. Love and light always, darling boy.
Stephanie, you come and talk now? Do you want me to read it for you? Good girl. I'll sit here. It's up there as well if you want to. Nice big.
All right. My dearest brother Glen, years ago I bought my daughter Lucy and Chelsea a book called My Granddad's Garden. This book was extremely special to us because it was about being thankful for what you had. It was then we created the Think and Thank seat, where we would sit and watch the stars and talk about what we were thankful for when it came to each other in the day that had just passed. Glen, I would like now to do the same and tell you what I am thankful for. Thank you for being my best, biggest brother in the world. I will be forever grateful for you and all of the memories of happiness that have and will continue to bring sunshine into my heart. Your sunshine is indelibly etched into all of us. Thank you for teaching me it is okay to laugh at yourself and not to take yourself too seriously. You did this by persistently taking the mickey out of not only me, AJ, and Paul, and especially yourself. Thank you for bringing me so much fun growing up. There are many memories in my bank to keep me smiling forever. Thank you for being my rock over the years, even though you had no idea what was happening at the time. Your spirit gave me light in the darkest moments. And I'm so lucky to have been given the photo by Emily all those years ago. There is so much more to thank you for. Oh, sorry, can't see. But one in particular that is the biggest gift you could have ever given us is that your beautiful wife, Emily, and your sons, Jacob and River. You yourself have been blessed having the time you have had walking through your life with such an extraordinary and amazing woman. How much you both love each other has shown me the unconditional enormity of how one's heart can pour into others. When you have that love for another, the end of the earth has no boundaries. You will always live on because of her love and admiration for you. Your children will always see and hear you in their hearts, in your absence because of her. Just this morning, Emily and River were discussing the sparkly frost outside the window and how it got there. Emily, being all practical, started to explain the reason when all of a sudden River piped up and said, "No, Mummy, Daddy walked me to school last week and he told me it's because of Jack Frost throwing icicles everywhere." You were such a magical husband and father. It makes me proud. I promise with all of my heart that I will take care of her and your sons forever. When I get home, Lucy and Chelsea are going to pick a star in the night sky for you, their Uncle Glen. It will be yours always. I will gaze upon it, thinking of you, and it will inspire me to keep shining as bright as you. I also know if my special Lucy or Chelsea need a light at any moment in their lives ahead, they will carry that star in the sky, your star, to guide them through. I also knew upon my return home that I would have to revisit all of the places that I remember us growing up, all of the games we played. I am so very thankful to be able to continue to do this and remember you. Now I speak for my sister, AJ, who sadly couldn't be here today. I know how deeply she loved our brother, and like all of us, she will deeply miss him. She wants you to be in peace and keep shining down your light on her. One other thing we all remember is her actually hitting you over the head with a bat and also throwing a skateboard at you that missed and went through the door. She is sorry for that, but in her defence, you were up to mischief again. I was there. And it was all over who had the highest rank in the house when Mum and Dad weren't home. It's terrible, typical sibling rivalry. I love you, Glen. This is not goodbye. I will be talking to you every day for the rest of my life. You will always, always be with me. That's it. I just sort that out.
And Steve, Emily's dad, would now like to come and say a few words.
Some 14 years ago in 2004, Emily went to Australia for a year or so, and I took the opportunity of seeing her for Christmas in that year, because I'd never been south of the equator. Emily and Glen met me at the airport, and it was clear that their relationship was rapidly growing, as when not together, they were often on the phone. So I felt a little bit sort of like the gooseberry for a while. My first impressions were of Glen as being a happy-go-lucky person. He crewed, as we've heard, a large sailing boat around the islands and even got paid for it. And they lived in Bondi, the spiritual home of surfing, a love of which we shared, although for some reason he wasn't quite so keen on my form because he called it bodyboarding, but for me it was surfing from when I sort of, but I just didn't stand up, that was all. Taking life lying down. After Emily's return to the UK, Glen soon followed, as we've heard, in 2005, and the following year, dear Jacob was born. Glen was a great dad and very attentive, and very happy to change nappies and all those sorts of things. All seemed set fair as he worked restoring wooden floors, which were his skill and his specialisation. He transformed many homes, willingly helping family and friends, and had such a sort of very open heart and happy to do this. Glen did have low periods, as we've heard, and the family went to live in New Zealand on a couple of occasions, hoping that he would be able to overcome the problems that he had. Indeed, he did receive special care while there, which was to greatly help not only himself, but latterly others in the UK. During the whole time, from then and continuing from now and onwards, Emily gave the most tremendous support to Glen. They finally returned in 2015 to the UK, where River was born. And again, Glen was a devoted, loving father. I saw a lot of the family as they lived in Wallingford and was lucky enough to go on holiday with them, including 2 trips to Cornwall, which we both loved. In fact, we all loved, and especially for the surfing. And I still did it lying down, and he stood up. The high point came only just over a year ago, when Emily and Glen were married here in Wallingford, and joined by many of you in this room and many members of Glen's family from New Zealand. Everyone had such a good and happy time. What a change. Glen was and is so much loved by Emily, Jacob and River, not to mention both their families and their friends, both in the New Zealand and the United Kingdom. So very sadly, all the love and support for him and his love for them was not enough to fight his internal battles, but he did fight so very hard. We will all miss him so much, but not as much as Emily, Jacob and River. We're here to support you, and I'm so very grateful for Glen's mum, Delwyn, Auntie Sue, Uncle Rod, Sister Steph, and Brother Paul, who immediately flew here to be with Emily and family. I will so miss him as a son-in-law. Glen, I hope you find peace.
Now, Rod, it's your turn.
Glen, you were your nan's golden boy. She loved you. A tribute from Glen's Auntie Linda. What if our religion was each other? If our practice was our life? If prayer, our words? What if the temple was the earth? If forests were our church? If holy water, the rivers, lakes, and oceans? What if meditation was our relationships? If the teacher was life? If wisdom was self-knowledge? If love was being the centre of our being? And how strong and beautiful Glen was, because I know he believed in what if and tried to live that as a warrior and a man, a son and a husband, as a father and a friend. Auntie Linda. So I'm Glen's uncle. I have a lifetime of experience with Glen, so I'm keeping this short. Glen was like a little brother to me, then a nephew. Being only 11 years his senior, we shared some interesting times. I was the first person to teach Glen how to swear. I recall sitting on the lounge floor in Hutchinson's Road, teaching Glen how to say, "Fuck you, mummy." When I was 17, Darwin and Paul, Glen's dad, moved to Australia. At 18, I went over to Oz. I really missed them. It was a great time. I remember going to watch Glen at the BMX track. Wow, he could ride. He was a state champion. He was just amazing sportsman. We had a few years apart, they in Oz from Victoria to Western Australia, and I spent 3 years over here in the UK. By the time I got back from my OE in Europe, the family had moved back to New Zealand. Glen's mum and dad had bought a flooring business, Silverdale Carpets. I lived with them for a short period of time and worked for them. It was great to reconnect with all the children. Glen was at Orewa College, played rugby for the school team. Having been sporty myself, I went to watch him play a few times and was very impressed at his courage and tenacity on the field. He was a really dirty little bugger on the football field. I really liked that about him. The only time we played together was for the Otahuhu over 35s. I was in my early 40s and Glen in his early 30s. He was so fast. Every time he made a break, and we all knew he was going to score, the ref would award a penalty to the opposition for excessive speed. And he really did. It was beautiful to see Glen find his true love, Emily. See him in his role as dad, firstly with Jacob. One time, through my connections in men's work, I organised a father and sons weekend for Jacob and Glen. This was in New Zealand. Unfortunately, Glen was too unwell to go, so I was privileged enough to take Jacob myself. What a young warrior. After that weekend, Glen was so grateful that Jacob had the experience. I introduced Glen and his little brother Paul to the Inner Warrior course, Mana, Auckland's men's circles. Glen touched so many men deeply in their hearts. We did our work together. We sweated, we laughed, we cried and sang. This song is a song for Glen from those men. We are one in the infinite sun, forever and ever and ever. We are one in the infinite Son, forever and ever and ever. Kua ke leno leno mahu te, haia no, haia no, haia no. Kua ke leno leno mahu te, haia no, haia no, haia no. Glen, you are my boy, my brother. My friend, my mentor, and my student. I hold you always in my heart. We as a family will be here for your beloved Emily and your life's work and masterpieces, Jacob and River. I'm not quite finished yet.
If you wish, I would like you to all join in to say the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you, Rod. Emily would like to thank the adult mental health team in Wallingford and Dr. Hughes for all their support for Glen. Also Paul Roberts, the CEO of Aspire Oxford, for giving Glen the opportunity to develop his skills and gave him a platform for using his lived experience for peer-led mental health support. And also to David Rice, who christened the boys and officiated at Emily and Glen's wedding last July, for all his help and support. And finally, Emily would like to thank all the family and the friends, both in the UK and New Zealand, on behalf of both Glen and herself, for all the ongoing support they have shown over the years, offering guidance and support without judgment. And she would like to invite you all back to the George Hotel in Wallingford for refreshments straight after the ceremony, so that you can share and reminisce together and remember the very happy times you all shared with Glen. And there will be others joining us there who couldn't come to the ceremony here. And if you'd like to make donations in Glen's name, they will be going to Aspire Oxford or donating funds to a savings account for the boys. And that can be done via the funeral director's website or in the box by the door. Okay, Emily. I'm going to ask Emily to come and read her tribute to Glen.
God, you set a bit of a high standard there, Rod. Okay. My memories for Glen, from Emily. Sorry, it might take a while to read this as well. Deep ocean blue eyes got the better of me. Sun, sea and surf, running free with each other. Music, dance, laughter, no cares. 2004, Bondi, where I met my true love. UK bound, unexpected but most joyful arrival. The most precious and magical boy, Jacob, came into our lives. 20th of March 2006. We were truly blessed. Glen took such care, delicate touch, and such love for his firstborn boy. Jacob was Glen's shining light. He loved his beautiful Jacob so, so very much. The journey ahead was mountainous, tough and at times full of fear. The ongoing battle my dearest endured was clear for all to see. Glen didn't just put up a fight. He was the warrior, taking on the whole army single-handed. Blade fierce, resilience digging deep, remarkable strength, determination to try again. I'm so sorry you had to endure so much pain, too much for anyone to bear. Life really was, and still is, just not fair. Like a child, you nestled your head into my arms, drifting into a dream, away from the nightmares you live with every day. Away from the cold and the dark, I will hold you close, my dear. There was no need to live in fear. I will hold you tight until the morning light, just as you would have done for me too. When the raging fire did subside, family time, joyous trips, walks, chilling, watching TV. Ghost hunts, looking into the unknown, always gathering information, pondering the worlds beyond. Meditation, silent mana retreats, a place for you to calm the soul, connecting to a place so deeply unknown. Always underlying and deep-rooted was your most beautiful soul, your kindness, and by God, your ferocious protection of us all. Your unconditional love, your handsome face and gentle touch. The arrival of River came 2015. What a name, everyone said, and we knew it would keep you in good stead. River, darling boy. River, darling boy. You too were the inspiration and drive for Daddy to carry on again. Spending time in East Tamaki Buddhist Temple in 2014 inspired your name. Water, river, the eternal flow of life. Life that you gave back again to Daddy to carry on his days. You are my soulmate, my true love, my darling husband. You inspired me every day with your ability to translate your personal mental health journey, empowering others to find hope and a life worth living. You changed so many lives for the better. Your gift to reach out and be there in times of need. So passionate to raise awareness. So please, all here today, keep talking. Don't be scared and light will prevail. Yes, I did have the role of a carer for over the years, and I'm so grateful I could. I am the woman I am today because of you. I now take the sword, and I will continue to fight. I will be strong. I will carry on. And I will be there for our boys. They say if you really love someone, then set them free. Now is the time for you to spread those colourful wings. Spirit bird, take flight. Fly high, soar, be at peace forevermore. My darling, my warrior, the man I'm so proud to call my husband. A wonderful father to our 2 boys. We love you forevermore. Sleep tight, my beautiful love. Your spirit is flying above. But don't go too far, and remember to pay us a visit. We'll definitely be waiting. Thank you.
We all know that Glen tried so hard, and we will never know what he was going through. He tried so hard to do his best and to live for those he loved, and those he loved will remember the effort he made to be there for them. A warrior thinks of death when things become unclear. The idea of death is the only thing that tempers their spirit. And though the warrior's sun has set, its light shall linger round us yet, bright, radiant, blessed. So now we're at that moment for us all to say our final farewell to Glen. And we are faced with trying to understand the finality of death's end. There is no answer to death, but to remember and to keep Glen alive in your thoughts and your shared memories, to live on as he would want you to live, with courage and fortitude, enjoying the things that you shared together. From the midst of our mourning, we leave this ceremony knowing that love and friendship is never changed or lost by death. Grief never ends, but it is a passage. It's not a place to stay or a lack of faith. It is the price of love. Please stand. Tenderly and reverently, we commit Glen's body to be returned to the earth, from whence all living things begin. We are grateful for the life that has been lived, and for all that that life has meant to us. We are glad that Glen lived. We are glad that we saw his face and felt the pressure of his hand. We cherish the memory of his words, his deeds, and his character. We cherish his friendship, but most of all, we cherish his love. We leave the memory of Glen in peace. With enduring love and respect, we bid him farewell. May you find strength and support in your love for one another, and may you find peace within yourselves. Now for us, the living, may the joy of memory and the love of family and friends give you strength to go forward into the future. Please be seated. Our last piece of music is called The Spiritual by Jukebox the Ghost. But Emily would like to invite you to come up and place a leaf on Glen's coffin. The leaves and foliage have been collected from the Castle Gardens in Wallingford, where Glen loved to spend time with his family, but also just sitting and reflecting life on his own. And on behalf of the family, may I thank you all for being here.
Some walk quiet, some walk loud. Sometimes people yell, but they don't know what they're yelling about. I've said things I didn't mean, but I'd already said them out loud. Forgive me if you can find out how. You could rise, you could sink. Some keep filled up with the secrets that they think they need. Oh, whatever would the others think? That you're human like the rest of us, Lord, above me to my knees, bring me. It's a call I don't often make. This is the rarest of pleas. Fair enough. Again, you got the best of me. Now let me go in peace. I should have left, but for you I stay. It's that part of me that likes it when it burns that way. I put my finger time and time through an open flame, going slowly so the burn reminds me that we might have kissed a bit too soon. I could feel what was coming and I didn't mean to hurry you. I just knew the time would find our fingers linked through and through. Forgive me, I'm human too. Lord, above me to my knees, bring me. It's a call I don't often make. This is the rarest of pleas. Fair enough. Again, you got the best of me. Now let me go in peace. I walked the night as the rain turned to sleet, then to ice. The roads became cruel, it left me to my vices. So I drank, stood, stared, and walked out into the street, singing, come on, slide and take me. Lord, above me to my knees, bring me. It's a call I don't often make. This is the rarest of pleas. Fair enough. Again, you got the best of me. go in peace. No, let me go in peace.
Well done, hey?
Thank you. I was going to say,
I really know that you felt that in your heart, so thank you so much.
it's my pleasure, honestly. That Auntie Linda's piece was beautiful. Could you send it to me? Can you photograph those pages?
I'll get Emily to photograph it and send it.
Because it was lovely.
Only came this morning.
Did it? That's why it's not in my script.